a Jet Li action movie in the 90s?
Cradle to the Grave.
Ah, so close.
Cradle to the Grave.
That also a magic card. Cradle to the Grave is definitely a magic card. All right, Shadow of the Grave is a 1 in a black instant. Return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn. So yeah, so we talked about New Perspectives as a way to cycle through your deck for 0. This is a card that lets you, all those cards that you cycled for free, you get to return them all to your hand. And then you get to cycle them all again. So this kind of ensures that you're able to get through your whole deck. Because, you know, you're going to have some percentage of lands, you know, that aren't going to be able to cycle. Though you probably will have some amount of cycling lands
that will be able to cycle. So.
But yeah, you know, lets you do that. Lets you return the Vizier. That lets you untap your lands. So it's almost a free spell in a way. Like, when I saw this, because we already knew about New Perspectives, and then when I saw this card, I was like, man, that's... seems like they shouldn't have done that. So, also there's a turn 3 kill possibility with this.
There is, yes.
It's very loose.
It's the loosest, though.
Yeah. So if you go like, we haven't gotten to
It's
it yet. The red card.
The Adept, the Flame Wave Adept. Is that it? Flame Blade Adept.
Flame Blade Adept, which you know, it gets bigger if you cycle or discard a card. So you play turn 1 Flame Blade Adept, turn 2.
News Constrictor.
Yeah,
Attack
News
for
And you have to attack for
Constrictor.
1. It's very important. You must attack for
and
1.
then the next turn you can discard your hand to the News Constrictor, and then return all the cards to your hand with Shadow to the Grave, and then discard them again. And, you know,
For 19.
deal 19.
Yeah. So
It's pretty great. That's probably not good enough, but
no, it doesn't feel like it.
It's a thing you could do.
And you're trying to say my 2 vulnerable creatures that both died of Fatal Push combo isn't going to be good enough?
Yeah.
Crazy.
But yeah, if this card sees play, I think at least for standard, I think you'll see it in some kind of New Perspectives combo deck. It is the effect I could see seeing play in older formats as well. Like it's kind of a unique effect, you know, being able to just return. I don't know, like maybe there's something where you know, in modern where you discard cards to some effect. And then
I mean, people have said like you have with the cycling lands, Assault Loam has picked up a little bit of gas, and then this is the kind of card that you can go from being almost there to kill your opponent to you could just kill them one shot with your.
Sure, yeah, just discard a bunch of lands to like Seismic Assault
and then return them all.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
So,
Yeah.
man, like Life of Malone, I'm just loving this set.
No, it just keeps going up and up and up. Next we have a Trespasser's Curse.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool to see curses come back a little bit. I actually really enjoy that. Like Mark Rosewater said that curses don't have to actually become like a block mechanic. Like they become like you use them on enchantments when they make sense, which I like that. So this is a curse, so it enchants a player, generally your opponent. Black and colorless. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under enchanted player's control, that player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Now I know this doesn't sound super exciting, but this is actually a pretty interesting answer to the Saheeli combo. I especially like this against 4-color Saheeli that plays a lot of inadvertent creatures, because if you get this, you know, the one that you played before, the what's the white one that you gain a life and they come into play tapped.
Authority of the Consuls?
That's the one, yes. Like, that is fine, but you gaining life is a lot less relevant than them, like, losing life. So you can actually use this card to sort of chip shot that deck while you get to play your normal game, which is kind of cool. And then, of course, this stops the combo going off because, well, they can't make infinite. They can only make as many as their life total has. It's kind of narrow, and I think that's probably its only constructed application, but it is sort of an interesting answer to that deck.
Yep, if that deck's still a thing.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll see on Monday, I suppose. Yeah, if that deck isn't a thing, then don't play this card and see.
Yeah, this card, not playable.
Heads up, not good enough anymore. Okay, we're coming up on our last card in black, and it is Never to Return.
All right, so another Aftermath card. So Never reads 1 black sorcery, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Return is the Aftermath side. It says it's 3 in a black sorcery. Exile target card from a graveyard. Create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And I'm turning my head sideways because I can't turn the card sideways. Can you turn it? No, you can't. So, yeah, the return side on this is pretty meh. But 3 mana to destroy a planeswalker is something that's always going to be interesting in black. Still wish it was Hero's Downfall, but can't have it all, I guess.
So is this better than Ruinous Path?
I don't think so.
I think it's close, just because I do think the Aftermath is actually more playable than the Awaken on Ruinous Path, but I think they're both negligible. Ruinous Path sees no play currently, so I don't know that this will see play, especially since the Aftermath portion of it is actively a black common from Shadows of Innistrad. Like, the only difference is that common can only hit creatures, but you also gain 2 life when you cast that one for a single black mana. So this Aftermath cost just seems wildly just out of control for me. I don't understand it, but
yeah, I don't think it's like a terrible card because the front side of it is still going to be
it's still
decent.
A playable effect, but it just doesn't see any play at all.
Right? Yeah,
because of
currently it does not see play, but I don't think it'd be unheard of for it to be.
We have a format dominated by Planeswalkers, and you still can't play Ruinous Path. Like, ugh. So, but that's black.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not super impressed.
I think Liliana is very good.
Sure,
And I think some of the zombie cards make zombies potentially a playable or a player in standard, I should say.
I think you missing out on what Morgan mentioned, the sort of the premium removal that uses -1/-1 counters. There's a 2 mana common that's not great. I think missing out on that is a little awkward. I know we just got Fatal Push, so expecting another great black removal spell was probably a little crazy. But there seems to be no playable black removal spells, which is really weird for a large. We just said never to return, but that effect already exists in standard. So
I think it'd be interesting if we got a card that was black and a colorless. Put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature, or something like that.
Yeah.
It seemed like there'd be a lot of
a grasp that is a little less, but is also permanent.
It'd be like a last gasp, but it gives -1 counters, so you have some kind of synergies. You get counters. You get 1/1s off your
Nest of Scarabs. Though to be fair, maybe getting 3 insects with that is too good. But I think missing out on that removal spell and the zombies being close but not maybe quite there, it makes black a little shaky to me.
I agree. All right. Glad we're done with that. Moving on to the next color. Okay, next up we have red. We get to We get to start with a goat.
He's a Minotaur.
He's
Minotaur.
He's a goat man.
Don't do that. He's a Minotaur. Okay.
Okay.
Mark Rosewater's been dealing with a lot of tough questions about Nagas and these types of creature types. Leave this Minotaur alone. Okay. This is On-Crop Crasher. This is 2 generic and a red for a 3/2 Minotaur Warrior. It has haste, and then it says you may exert On-Crop Crasher as it attacks. When you do, target creature can't block this turn. And that's pretty exciting. We had a creature that was kind of like this a little while ago. It had dash.
Yeah.
Goblin Heel Cutter. And actually saw standard play and was pretty good. This card, you trade the dash mechanic out for this exert mechanic, which may be worse, obviously. But if you're playing a really aggressive red deck and you're curving, this is kind of devastating. The exert could be negligible if you have some tap it, but man, and I will have to say, obviously this plays really well with Always Watching. So we've said this a couple times, but if there's a red-white Always Watching deck, this card is also good there too. But I don't feel bad curving a 1-drop and a 2-drop into this, especially with some of the 2-drops we'll look at that we have in this set. This card feels really good, and it seems to me, feels like it is definitely a major piece of the red aggressive deck if it exists in this format.
Yeah.
I did not think this card was playable when I first saw it, but I guess we'll see.
I don't think it is. I mean, if something like the Dasher is playable, I think this guy is too. I mean, just having a semi-falter effect is very important in that deck. You need to get through, and this guy does it for you. So,
I will grant that it's awkward, especially, again, we have to say this all the time, but it's awkward against vehicles because they can just wait until after it attacks, so hooray for that.
The vehicles are
but I do think
a problem.
Yeah, but I do think there's a number of decks, especially we're talking about these blue-white control decks that will need to sort of survive those early turns, maybe using something like Shielded Aether Thief to try and block, you know what I mean? And this can be the creature that sort of puts the nail in the coffin, where it's oh no, your one blocker ain't gonna do it.
Yeah.
So.
All right. We have another Goat Man up.
Goat man.
It's
Minotaur.
I'm sorry. They look like goats. I hate to tell you.
Rams, if you're going to be that guy.
Okay, fine. Ram men.
Ramitars? I don't like that, actually. I don't like that at all.
We have Blood Rage Brawler.
All right. Blood Rage Baller. It's one in a red.
Baller.
One in a red for a 4/3 Minotaur Warrior. When it enters the battlefield, discard a card. So these types of creatures typically they look good on paper, but they don't play out very well. However, this format has some incentives to discard cards.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are a lot of cards in the set that say whenever you cycle or discard a card, get some kind of bonus, which is nice. You may want to pitch things like Scrap Heap Scrounger or
Fiery Temper. Honored Hydro, which we haven't gotten to yet, but that looks like to be a popular one.
Yeah.
This also has this 4 power as a 2-drop in red.
Yeah.
Like that's.
I think like outside of the synergies, if you just have it and you don't have any of the synergies, I don't think it's that good. But if you're able to use it if you're able to use the discard as an upside, then sure.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think in a vacuum, not great. 2 for 1 yourself. Like we had a similar one, and what was it? 3/3 Death Touch on black, right? The Skulk guy.
Yes.
Whatever the thing was. Yeah.
I think 4 power is really significant, though. I think it really is. Like a 2-drop with 4 power. We actually have 2 of those in this format because we have a green creature. We'll get to as well. But that one even requires some real hoops to jump through to make it an actual 4/4. This is not that much of a hoop. Not to mention the fact that the way the red decks are built, especially if you're playing like Hazarat and other things, if you don't have a hand, it doesn't matter. Which makes it if you're a red aggressive deck that's wanting to top deck something, top decking a 4/3 is not bad. So I think this card's good. I think the red deck. To your point though, Dave, I do think like the red deck in this format actively wants to play that style, that sort of card disadvantage, that sort of like,
just like get your hand down.
yeah, which isn't always comfortable for a lot of players, and also actively can lead to blowouts. So I understand why like looking at these cards, it could be like sort of like I don't know,
and in a historical sense, like what am I thinking of? Hellbent. It's not a good mechanic. That was like one of the worst mechanics in Ravnica.
Yeah.
So, actually, not the actual worst one, but probably like the second worst.
But maybe Heckbent is like the perfect amount, right?
So I will say like, and like going back to the Crasher here, like so if you like go a red 1-drop that like Falcon Wrath Gorger or something, or even like the Flame Blade Adept that gets you to attack with that, and then you play this on turn 2, and then you play the Crasher on turn 3. Your opponent is halfway dead, and your board present is pretty good, and I think that's exciting because I don't think we've seen a red deck that can do that in a while. Also, 4 power, just saying, turns on the Green God that we're going to talk about, turns on Ronus, and that's really important. So,
okay.
All right, we're going to talk about some artifact removal next.
Yeah,
by force. Who wants to take it?
It's mine.
All right.
We know what we're doing.
I was just making sure.
No, see, you're trying to mess us up.
I'm saying sure.
And
Hey.
I don't like it.
I'm sorry.
By force is red X for a sorcery. Destroy X artifacts. That's it.
Pretty straightforward, in all honesty.
I thought this was a rare when I first saw it, so I'm glad it's just an uncommon.
No, it's just an uncommon.
So I think we mentioned before that this will fight for space with release the goblins, gremlins. I'm sorry. But I think that this is actually probably more attractive for a lot of decks.
Oh, for sure. You just get like more bang for your buck. I mean, like I'm not going to discount making 2/2 gremlins like that. That's obviously pretty good. But sometimes you just want to kill some artifacts, and you want to get 2 or 3 at a time. So I mean, this is what's going to allow you to do that. As Dave expels all of the mucus from his nose.
So gross.
Oh yeah, of course we can hear that, Dave.
Sorry, everybody. Just think about by force. Dave was getting all of that music out of his body by force.
Hey, I stepped away.
You did a good job, but man, these mics aren't like you don't just like walk away a couple feet and get out of that range.
All right, hey. I'm doing my best here. I mean, this is a long cast.
Yep.
Fighting through. I'm playing hurt today, so
But yeah, by force, like, again, it's nice because red has an artifact destruction spell that's almost mana efficient. If you get to kill 2, it's pretty mana efficient. So
Yeah, you're probably you're doing pretty well. So
like I'll kill your Heart of Kieran. You know what? And that clue, take that.
taste it.
got him. Even just like making them sack it there. Yeah.
That's fair.
Use up their
Yeah.
mana. I don't know.
All right, Combat Celebrant.
I'm not gonna talk about that card. Flame Bladed Depth.
Wow. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, Combat Silver is probably bad, and it's always bad
Combat
too.
Celebrant. It's bad. You should feel
I just
bad.
want to say this. Hey, Wizards, stop making red mythics that just make me attack more. I'm done with it. I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
Red can do more things, and we'll see that Red can do more things at a mythic level in this set. Stop making these cards. They're
Stop
not
making
good.
4/1s. That's a common rate.
Yeah,
Like,
who cares?
don't let me open a mythic that literally can't go to combat with 1-drops and survive, and tell me that its exert is good enough. All right, that's fine, Dave. Let's move on.
Flame Blade Adept. So this is a card we mentioned earlier. So it's costs a single red for a 1/2 Menace Jackal Warrior. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, Flame Blade Adept gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So I think it's a pretty decent 1-drop for red. Like you said, if the red deck kind of revolves around discarding your own cards for various effects, I mean, this could be pretty good. So I don't know. I don't think you're going to play this in like a dedicated cycling deck. I mean, I guess possibly you may want to play like a red-blue deck with 1-mana cyclers, but probably not.
It does feel weird that like this doesn't work with like Storm Chaser Mage, for example. So
Yeah.
like that doesn't feel right to me. But the red deck that inadvertently wants to discard things and probably plays Hazoret, this is nice. And Menace is always nice on this because it gets in more often.
Yeah.
Right. So a decent 1-drop
Yeah.
for red.
I mean, probably about all we can really expect with the way they make red 1-drops. I mean, we have a rare that's also a 1/2, but it's just like, I mean, they gave us Monastery Mentor, and we probably didn't deserve that as red mages. Let's be fair.
Swiss Sphere.
Yeah, not Mentor.
Monastery Mentor definitely doesn't.
No, you should never like. We almost. Well, I mean, kind of. You have like Young Pyromancer. It's kind of like the smaller Monastery Mentor.
Yeah.
Not nearly as good, but hey, what are you gonna? You're uncommon, man. What are you gonna do?
Let's quickly talk Fling here, which the art is sweet on this because it's definitely a fastball special.
Oh yeah,
Definitely someone's throwing Colossus, or Colossus throwing Wolverine. My apologies.
Correct.
So Fling is red and colorless for an instant. As an additional cost to cast Fling, sack a creature. Fling deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to target creature or player. An oldie, but a goodie.
yeah. And normally when this kind of card exists in the format, you can't like just kill a person with the creature you're flinging, but we happen to have some combination of cards that can allow you to make a ridiculous and then throw it at your opponent.
Yeah, so we have the combination of the construct that works with Wandering Fumarole.
Yes.
To get a infinite power, and you could fling that at your opponent. So that's good.
Pretty
There
good.
is a combo with Liliana and Felidar Guardian, and it's a creature from is Aether Revolt?
It's Aether Revolt.
A black and 2 colors. It says sacrifice a creature
Or
or
an
artifact.
artifact.
Put a +1/+1 counter on it. So you can sack the Felidar Guardian, and then because Morgan, you told about this, and then you -3 the Liliana, bring back the Felidar Guardian, which flickers the Liliana. So then you sacrifice the Guardian, and you can have infinite power that way, and you can fling that creature.
Yes.
Or there's still this Pummeler deck.
Yeah,
There's
there's still
just
red,
straight up the
green Pummeler.
energy Pummeler deck that just wants to pump it up, and sometimes you can't hit them for lethal, but afterwards your creature still has a lot of power, and you can just throw it at them. So I think like Fling has enough applications that like don't be surprised when a creature with large power is getting thrown at your face at some point in this format.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But, I mean, what more can you really say about
No,
Flame?
and that's what Fling does. It's again like Wolverine. It's the best of what it does.
Pretty much.
I'm of the opinion that none of those applications are good enough for standard. However, it's nice that it's there. I guess it's nice to have.
I mean,
it for
I
me.
think the Pummeler deck has been close consistently,
Yeah,
and
but,
Fling
like-
is a nice thing for that deck.
How much mana do you need to make your pummeler that big? and then also have 2 mana left over.
I mean, all you have to do is like hit him for like 10 and then throw it for 10. That doesn't require that much mana with Pummeling.
Yeah, for the most part, because you need energy, but not necessarily a whole lot of mana.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So next card we have is a Glorious End. So this is like the real red mythic. Like this isn't a 4/1.
Yeah, this is a cool
yeah.
card. I have no idea what to do with this card.
So Glorious End is it's 2 and a red instant. End the turn, and then at the beginning of your next end step, you lose the game.
It's like a weird Final Fortune.
Yeah, it's like a Final Fortune. It's got some sweet art on it. You know, guys taking out a Minotaur into some spike pit. We haven't seen one of these cards in a while. I think we had Final Fortune. Wasn't there another one?
Yes,
Where you lose the game.
there's
Yeah.
a one in Portal 3 Kingdoms as well.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I thought that was a different one, but sure.
It's been a while since we've seen a time sub effect either. We had Sundial the Infinite years ago at this point. Yeah, this is just a weird effect. Like, you should really, if you've not played with this effect before, make sure you read the reminder text on this card, because like the way that it works is like spells that are on the stack get exiled, including this one, so you can't do any cool flashback shenanigans. But like if you time the ending of the turn well, you can really blow out your opponents. You know, get them to counter their spells. You'll get them to mess up during a combo. There's some interesting things here, and the card itself has a trigger at the end of it, but you could always end your turn again before you get to your end step. So you can chain glorious ends if you're not ready to kill your opponent. We also have disallow in standard, so you could actively counter the trigger, which is kind of nifty. You're like, no, I just won't lose the game.
And there's this like card we already talked about, Gideon, that says you can't lose the game if you have
true.
an emblem and a Gideon. So I mean, like, we actually have a few ways to counteract this clause. But these kind of red cards like never appeal to me because I'm just not that kind of player. Like I want to kill you. I want to work for something weird. So
Yeah.
like this is definitely a unique effect. It's definitely a mythic as far as like what portion of the color pie it's in and everything like that. But this card's cool. But I'm like I just don't care about it.
Yeah, I don't know like how much play this will see, but it's like a pretty sweet card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think Modern has more applications for it than other formats, because there are definitely combo decks where like casting this is kind of awkward for them. People have mentioned like Ad Nauseam. That one's harder to do because they have Pact of Negation. But like I feel like people say like Valakut, like let them like scape shift off, and then you're just like all these triggers on the stack. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna end the turn. Then I'm going to tap and I'm going to attack for lethal.
And as a Valakut player, you're like, no.
It's like, what, that. But this was the glorious end. The volcano, like I got, like what's the lore on that? Like the volcano's like Valakut's like and it's like shh. Oh.
All right, I'll just hang out then.
No, next turn? No. Where are the mountains? Oh. So I think that's kind of cool, and it's a piece of interaction that Red doesn't normally have, which says like stop this. You know what I mean? Like
Please stop.
Hey, like gift storm, like oh storm triggers. Like actually, I'm gonna end the turn.
Yeah, it's like a
I'm gonna let you
weird,
finish.
it's weird, like a weird like time walk counterspell.
But you do have to be able to kill your opponent. So that's the thing. Like the deck you have to make sure. But honestly, in Modern, you end up with a lot of races with your red decks. I don't know if that has a place in Burn or not. But even like there's a card we're gonna talk about in a second, Harsh Mentor, that might open up like red white hate bears to be more of a thing. And like the kind of deck that might just need one more turn. You know what I mean? Against those combo decks, just needs one more turn. You know what I mean? And you're just like, oh, all right, like okay, that's fine, I guess. So.
Yeah.
It's an interesting card.
Certainly.
Ready
All right.
for Glorybringer?
Yeah, I'm ready to have the glory be brought to me.
I bring the glory. It's a 4/4 creature dragon that costs red 3 generic. Flying haste. So all of these things sound like my best buddy from a few years ago, Stormbreath Dragon.
It's very familiar.
It has exert, and if you exert Glorybringer, you can deal 4 damage to non-dragon creature an opponent controls, which is interesting because if Glorybringer does become very popular, they can't kill each other. They have this like weird like
at least not with the.
Well, they have this like weird truce where it's like, hey, buddy, are we on opposing sides? Okay, you and me aren't going to hurt each other. We'll hurt the other ones. And they do like a weird like dragon high five, and then they kill the board. This card is obviously exciting. You know, we haven't had a dragon like this in a little bit that feels this playable. It's also being touted as like the Gideon killer because you can attack, exert, kill the token that Gideon made, and then hit Gideon for 4. So that's a cool thing that can happen. You know, how good this card overall in the format is, I don't know. Some people were saying like this is like an amazing, great card, and I really like it, but I don't see where it goes just yet. So some people have said like 4-color Saheeli wants this card. Maybe that's true, but the exert's a real drawback on the kind of red decks that want to play this card. And we can keep saying always watching until we're blue in the face, but there's got to be some other sort of, or I guess red in the face is the one I want to say. I don't know. I don't know. I need to see the deck that actively plays this card well, and even in the Gideon interaction, like Heart of Kirin makes that interaction really awkward because they're like, okay, I'll exert it to kill your token, and it's like, okay, well then I'll minus a loyalty counter to activate my Heart of Kirin and block. Oh. So I think Glory Bringer is a very good card, but I am not sure like what deck in standard. Like, and obviously there could just be a new deck. You know, it'd be cool to see a return of like a Jund or like a Naya mid-range deck, maybe playing some of the gods and discard and mana creatures. We haven't seen a deck like that in a while, but I don't know how a deck like that ever beats Saheeli consistently. So, I don't know.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, I mean that's the truth. You know, when we had this joke, I retweeted it, but you posted this, Dave, that Willie Idol like had this really sad tweet where it was like, psst, all the sweet brews you're working on, they can't beat vehicles or Saheeli. And it's like, what? Oh, like, ooh. And like, that's
Why you gotta ruin my day, Willie?
That's what I
Come
feel
on.
like with this card. Like, yeah, you want to play this card, but like, you got to tap out on 5, not be able to kill their Planeswalker, and then die the next turn. Like, is that where we're at? So, I want this card to be very good. I'm worried that it won't be in the format.
I think it'll show up eventually.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe if it's not now, it'll be at some point. But I mean, this card feels too good and too pushed to just not see any play.
Yeah.
To me.
I agree with
I
that.
think you're right. Like with as the format stands, I don't see where it fits, but I think it's one of those cards that it makes its way in. You know, like it forces its way in because it's just too good. I don't know.
Yeah. It's got to bring the glory.
Yeah.
All right.
Next card we got here generated a lot of buzz. Harsh Mentor.
Bees?
Bees?
Harsh
Yeah, Harsh Mentor is 1 in a red for a 2/2 human cleric. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, Harsh Mentor deals 2 damage to that player. So this is kind of like a weird hate bears, kind of not quite an Eidolon of the Great Rebel, but does some other things. I don't know. So some people have said like this is like supposed to be the red 2-drop that to compete with, you know, Snapcaster.
Yeah, the
Dark Cloud Power.
Stoneforge. Yeah, the Stoneforge Mystic, the Tarmogoyf.
I don't really think so. I think it's definitely better in modern than it is in standard.
Yes, fetch lands definitely make this card like hit hard.
Yeah. So, but even then, like, it feels like more of a sideboard card for modern than a main deckable card. Because I think like if you're playing a deck like Burn, you're not gonna want too many 2-drop creatures in your deck. I think Eidolon is a given. Like Eidolon is still better than this card. You're gonna main deck your Eidolons. Yeah. And this card is. There are certain decks that it's really not going to do much against. You know, like something like Merfolk. It's like they don't play fetch lands. You know, or like
Hey, they
do activate Aether Vial and Mutavault, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they do.
Yeah.
Like, these are things.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, like I guess
And
any
Curse
deck
Catcher
that,
doesn't a Merfolk Regery also have
that's its trigger. It's a trigger.
That's a trigger. Okay, I didn't know if it had a tap. So.
But the point is, I don't know how many 2-drop creatures are going to want to play, and I think Eidolon of the Great Rebel is still better.
Yeah, I don't know if this slots into Burn. I do think it slots into like a Taxes deck. Like Craig Wesco had a really good article on TCG Player about like how to build like red-white Taxes, and like if you're like turn 1 Aether Vial and then like you're playing like you play you hit a Thalia off this and then you play the Harsh Mentor, and then like you also have like Lead and Arbiter like within those first few turns, like your opponent, like he was describing like the play patterns your opponent has to go through to take the least amount of damage while also trying to navigate your board. And it's again, well, sometimes you'll play against a deck that just has like a clean sweeper and that'll be that. But for a lot of decks, especially with all the fetch lands and like Death Shadow, it really is going to be hard for them to sort of navigate the board state and not crack fetches to take more damage, right? And that's where I think Harshmender might be able to shine. I do not think like the hyperbole that people have with this card immediately it seems crazy. But for as many decks as you say it won't hurt, there are some decks in the format that just can't beat this card. Your Lantern Control can't beat this card. Like it can't do it. It has almost no removal spells, and like everything it wants to do is use land this card, and they're like, all right, I hope I draw my Abrupt Decay because like
Yeah, that's your only out.
Because like yeah, they can bridge you, but they still have to mill you to win. You know what I mean? So that's the same is true of like I said, like Affinity. You know, it's tough. So I think there are some decks that will take enough damage off this outside of just fetch lands in general that I think it's somewhat exciting. I said it's not. I don't think it's format defining, but I'm glad that Red got this card.
Yeah. Seems like you said, it's kind of a hate bears card. It almost feels like more of a white card.
Yeah, it does feel like a white card. Outside of the fact that it does 2 damage.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's a good card.
To be fair, like color pie wise, it's probably close. It's even actually a mentor, right? So like,
it's
white has teachers,
so, like,
right?
But
like this is just like the one that like punches you in the face and asks, and then like, now what lesson was I teaching you? It's like I don't know. Wrong answer. Punch in the face again.
So this is like the Cobra Kai coach, right?
Absolutely. look at the coat in the back and everything. Absolutely. He's like sweep the leg, and it's like harsh mentor. Are you sure?
Yeah,
I said sweep the leg.
The flavor text definitely should have been sweep the leg instead of. It has good flavor text though. It says fight through it.
I will say calling it Cobra Kai is probably really offensive to the Naga on the plane.
Probably can't get away with that, unfortunately. But such is life.
Next up, we have Hazoret the Fervent, which is a red god. So
this is the first god we saw.
It is, and this is a red and 3 generic for a 5/4 legendary creature god. It's indestructible and has haste. It is heck bent to activate it.
It is heck bent,
so it cannot attack or block unless you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, and it has an activated ability 2 generic on a red. Discard a card. It deals 2 damage to each opponent. In the context of the format, I think I'm higher on this card than I was before. I've mentioned already, like the red-green deck that could work with Ronus, who we'll get to in a little bit. And man, Ronus and Hazoret are pretty good buddies.
They're best friends.
Between the Minotaur we already saw that makes you discard a card. Noose Constrictor. Like there's a lot of ways to make this very playable. And man, indestructible on this makes it really hard to interact with, and it can hit like a truck. So I think Hazoret's a little bit better in my mind than I thought even before, and I kind of liked it before. So obviously playing with like 1 or fewer card in your hand isn't a way that everyone will want to play as far as a play style, but I think there's enough people that want to just like attack. They just want to turn their card sideways that this should be pretty appealing to.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say that I haven't had a chance to play with the card, so I don't know what that kind of looks like. Play with or against the card in any of our testing, so we'll have to wait and see. Like, I have to wait and see to have that experience, but I'm going to take your word for it.
Card seems good. I don't know.
Dave, you all right over there?
I'm losing steam.
All right, hold on. We'll try to make it through red.
All right. Next card, for some reason, Heart Piercer Manticore. 2 generic red for a 4/3 Manticore. Looks like a tiger with a scorpion tail. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Heart Piercer Manticore deals damage equal to that creature's power to target creature or player. And also has Embalm for 5 and a red. I guess the saving grace on this is that can hit a creature. I don't know.
I think the saving grace on this is it can hit a player. Like I think like playing this card after you already have a creature that is 8. We have enough 4-power creatures here. This can be the thing that like you attacked and killed their Gideon instead of killing them to get rid of their emblem, and then you can play this afterwards and still kill them. And the Embalm on this I think is actually pretty sweet. Like the extra damage is kind of nice. I don't know, this card doesn't see play, but it's pretty close. I already saw a couple of lists. Jerry Thompson had it in a few lists today with Eldritch Evolution, which was kind of nifty. So I think it's definitely worth taking a look at. There's enough creatures, even the gods, with a lot of power for a low cost that just playing a 4/3 that also gets to like lava axe your opponent is not the worst. Like I have the second Ronus in hand. Well, I'll sack this one. So
Yeah, so an interesting thing that can be done. I also think that everything on Amonkhet wants to kill you.
That is
It's
actively
like
true.
Australia. It's like
It would kind of like
It's like Egypt and Australia.
yeah.
all we're missing are giant spiders, I guess.
Oh no, there was
no
giant spiders in the set.
Yep.
Yep. There you go.
Next up, we have Limits of Solidarity, which Morgan actually turned into a hilarious dog.
Oh yeah,
meme.
this is a doggo meme. This poor little doggo on the right is like, why you hurt, friend?
You did me a scare, friend.
You're doing me a scare, friend.
And so, and once you see it like that, you'll never be like that. Poor guy is like he's like, no.
He's very sad. He's very sad doggo right there.
So Limits of Solidarity is a 3 generic and a red for a sorcery. It's threaten. Gain control of a creature, untap it, it gains haste until end of turn. Which is not exciting, except for, cycling. Which makes this a really... now, this one doesn't feel as much like a main deck card to me as some of the other ones do, because red decks that are aggressive don't always have the extra mana through their curve. But I will say, it makes it for a pretty appealing sideboard card, because you board a card like this in, and sometimes your opponent doesn't have the draw where this effect is good, and it just rots in your hand, and you're like, well, I'm glad I brought this in. Cycling says, nope, it's cool. I got you. And I think this may be the most playable threat we've had in a while.
Yeah, and we have like things like Kari Zev's expertise in the format, where it's like literally lets you play a free spell. I mean, you're limited on the mana cost, but
This is just better.
it is.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I like that they made this card because this feels like, even if we're not even talking about constructed, like this is like the type of card that you want cycling on. That it's like it's not always going to be good, but it's a cool effect to have access to. But you can always just cycle it if you don't need it.
then that's the nicest thing about it. I do want to mention the flavor text here because I wasn't actually sure. When you said about Hazaret being like the one that kills them at the end. So it says, when the time comes, only one of you will be honored by my spear. And it's like, honored?
Honored?
Okay.
Is that what?
That's a very red thing to
Is that what
say.
we're calling it? Okay.
Is that where we're leaning? Okay.
Is that where we fell on the whole honored scale? Okay, that's good.
With spears. Okay, gotcha. I like a plaque. Well, plaque would be nice, actually.
A plaque would be because nice little plaque. That sounds good. I put a plaque and a little pat on the head. Like,
Are you going to give me your spear? Is that what you mean by that?
Because it's pretty large for me. Let's be honest.
I don't think it'll. Will it scale? Is it a replica? Oh, you're going to stab me with it. Gotcha.
All
right. Magma spray. This is a sweet reprint.
Yet another reprint that I got.
That's how the cards got dealt, Dave.
Yeah. Magma Spray, it's a single red instant, deals 2 damage to target creature. If the creature would die this turn, exile it instead.
In dead.
So
don't put anything in Ted.
Sometimes you're better off, Ted.
Sometimes it's a great show.
They might as well have just put a Scrap Heap Scrounger just getting annihilated on the.
It would have been a little out of place.
So I'm fairly certain this is a mummy exploding because even the flavor text says ashes can't be embalmed. It's like I'll become a mummy. No.
Yeah, but that's good flavor text because it's like, oh hey, I can use this against embalmed creatures, and then they can't come back.
Whoa,
it's crazy.
This card's gonna have a ton of standard applications.
Yeah, I mean,
we've been needing this.
It's no, it's no shock. You can't stop Saheeli combo with this card, but it has so many more applications with a lot of the stuff from Shadows of Innistrad. Being able to take care of your haunted deads and your things from.
Scrapping Scrounger.
Scrapping Scrounger from Kaladesh. Like, you do have a lot of interesting, powerful applications with this spell. And, like, I feel like last time we got what Magma Story was, what, Journey?
Journey. Yeah.
And that didn't feel like it was impactful.
This is going to feel, just with Scrounger alone, this feels impactful.
Yeah.
So.
But, yeah. You know what card I kind of miss? Pillar of Flame. Remember that card?
Oh, man. Yeah, the one that could also, like,
hit face.
Hit a player.
Yeah. Oh, man.
No Pillars of Flame, just Magma Sprays.
No. Yeah.
I played Pillar of Flame in Modern. But this card also sees play in Modern. You can hit Kitchen Finks and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
Very
absolutely.
So, good to see it. It's a welcome, card back into Standard.
Sure.
Next up is Soulscar Mage. This is 1 red for a 1/2 creature with prowess, human wizard. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a creature an opponent controls, put that many -1/-1 counters on that creature instead. And we talked about this card a little bit before. I still really like this card. In context of the whole set, I don't know how well positioned it is, but it's pretty sweet with things like, again, like even like Magma Spray, because you can cast it and then in combat allows the red creatures to survive, whereas normally you would have to like 2-for-1 a big creature. Like, all right, well, I can kill this this Torrential Gearhulk in combat when I attack, but I've got to kill my own guy and use my removal spell. Whereas now you could use the removal spell that gives it -1/-1 counters, and then your creature survives, and that's a huge swing.
So you can deal some amount of damage that is not lethal to the other creature, but
and
makes
not
it
lose
small
and
enough.
not lose yours, and it's huge. So, and Morgan has already mentioned the awesome interaction with Kozilek's Return in this card, where if you set up your board correctly, your opponent will be a very sad panda.
Yes.
So, again, how well positioned this card is, I'm not totally sure, but prowess is always good as well. So. I like it.
I mean, like, this is just another card that can go into, like, a blue-red, Fevered Visions-esque spells deck, which I think would be, like, the only current home for it, in all honesty, but...
I mean, I think it could go just on, like, a regular red deck.
Just
I think this is a better one-drop than the other guy we talked about, the Jackal.
Maybe.
The Flame
Maybe.
Blade deck.
It feels like... we'd have to build a deck and like see like how many like prowess things we have.
I think in a red deck, the prowess is going to be easier to trigger than like a cycle or a discard.
Maybe. How many good red spells do we have?
There's
currently?
burn spells.
How many burn spells do we have? We have shock.
Sure.
We have Incendiary Flow.
Okay, yeah. Incendiary Flows, it's alright.
It's all right.
It's alright.
But
No Lightning Strike. Rest in peace, Lightning
anyway,
Strike. We miss you.
If there's a red deck wins style of deck, it will play this. I'm sure of it.
Fair enough.
All right.
Let's talk about some spring weather, some sweltering suns.
Sweltering Suns.
I thought it was a comedy troupe. SONS, not SUNS. Sons. People.
I get you.
Anyways,
It's too hot. Sweltering Suns is 1 red for a sorcery. It says Sweltering Suns deals 3 damage to each creature, and it has cycling of 3. Is this the only 3-mana cycler in the set?
I think so.
yes, I believe so.
Feels like out of place.
Because it's Starstorm. That's why.
Starstorm cycling 3?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I mentioned that last week, but that's what it feels like. That's the reference here is to Starstorm.
Yeah.
So also, red is not as good at cycling as other ones are. That also makes sense to me.
That's true. We don't have any single red cyclers.
No, which I think would be great if we did, but no, we definitely don't.
So, this is a sweeper. What other sweepers do we have currently?
Radiant Flames.
So we got Radiant
We have a couple
Flames,
black -2/2
Kozilek's
ones.
Return.
Kozilek's Return.
You have the one that you have to sacrifice an artifact for.
Yeah, that one's not very exciting.
I'm not saying it's just there. It exists.
Fair enough.
But yeah, this is a cool card. I mean, if there is a control deck with red, it probably would want to play this card in it. Some decks you're not going to need the sweeper against, but yeah, 3 mana cycling is way worse than the 1 mana cycling, obviously. But I think it'll be even more apparent if once you play with cards that have each of those abilities. It's like 3 mana is just infinitely worse.
But even then, like,
It's still a good card.
Yeah, sometimes we're just like, well, I really don't need this sweeper. I will pay the cost to get another card.
Yeah, I don't think this is better than things like Anger the Gods for Modern.
Oh,
because
no.
Anger exiling
yeah.
the creatures is so much more.
Yeah,
important.
that's why you're playing that card for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I think this is definitely like a playable card for Standard. Maybe not great in the current context of the format, but it's
another card
option.
that probably gains in the fall too when like Radiant Flames is gone.
Yeah, it's another option. Or you can play this in like a 2-color deck where Radiant Flames is more of a 3-color thing.
Last card for red is Insult to Injury. This is our Aftermath card in red. For 2 in a red, you get a Insult, which is a sorcery. Damage can't be prevented this turn. If a source you control would deal damage this turn, it deals double that damage instead. Injury is a 2 and a red for a sorcery with Aftermath. Injury deals 2 damage to target creature and 2 damage to target player. I wasn't really sure about this card, and then I've come across it a couple times in testing, and it was very good.
Really?
Yeah. So so it says if a sorcery you control would deal damage to turn, it deals double. Yeah, this sequences pretty well with the basic red deck. Again, remember that 4/3 guy? So if you want to 1-drop into that guy into this card, and your opponent like played some tap lands with the recycling, or played like a Drake Haven, and then you hit them for 12, right? And then you have a removal spell in your graveyard. The way that it's worded, it has 2 targets, so it can't just be fizzled. So like then you have a 2 damage spell in your graveyard, and your opponent's at a low life total. This also interacts really favorably with Gideon of the Trials, or they can tick up on. You're like, oh, tick up prevent damage for this, and you can just be like, no, actually, the damage can't be prevented, and kill their Gideon. I think this card is surprisingly good. Furnace of Wrath is an effect I've liked in the past, and being able to set it up for yourself, only for yourself for a turn, is actually really powerful. I think it's deceptively powerful.
Yeah, I think like on the surface, I just dismissed this because it felt close, but the fact that the insult half of it is a sorcery, it just feels like it should be an instant.
I don't know. Doubling all damage dealt by all of your sources does not feel like an instant to me.
All right, I guess it is all your sources.
Yeah,
I thought it was just one source.
Oh no, hey, just this also works really good with Ronus again, who can give things trample. Oh god. So, yeah, I think this card is deceptively powerful. It's definitely subjective. Like there are going to be board states where you draw this card and you're like, well, I wish this is in my graveyard because that would be a lot more useful than this. But
well, I mean, we also talked about like cards that you actively want to discard.
Yeah,
I think just casting the injury, if you discard this early and just have
to
the
the
injury,
4/3, for example, then you have that in your yard.
Yeah, that actually seems perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Maybe.
See, I'm selling Dave on the red deck.
I'm still not totally sold, but
no. But what I'm saying is,
I can see.
If we're going to do our wrap up for red here, then I think you actually have a weird style of aggressive red deck. You know what I mean? That the heck bent. But there's a lot of synergy here and some powerful creatures to go with it that I think that the payoff might be there, and I think red mages can be satisfied, which I think is a feeling maybe they haven't had for a while.
Oh, for a very long time,
You want a better removal spell. You still want a nice, lightning strike or something. But for now, you've got some good stuff here.
Yeah, you can start building. You can start putting pieces together, which is not something you could say for a lot of the previous sets that we've had. So I think red made it out pretty all right. So, but that's it for red. We're going to actually move on to green. All right. Green's next, as we already said. First up is Champion of Ronus.
Champion of Ronus.
This is not the Scottish Plains.
Champion of Ronus is you can tell it's getting late. This is what happens every time.
This is the goofy hour.
It's going to get crazy. Champion of Ronus is 3 and a green for a 3/3 Jackal Warrior, so it's Hill Giant stats. But you may exert Champion of Ronus as it attacks. When you do, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Finn. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of this card, just because it's either a really bad rate for constructed. If you're trying to play this in constructed, it's a 3/3 for 4. It's not good. But if you have something like an Ulamog in your hand, you just get to put it into play free. It's I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't think this card is good.
No.
I don't think Elvish Piper would see play in a current standard metagame, so I don't think that a fairly worse version of it, Piper at least just tapped.
Yeah, this one has to attack.
So yeah, 3/3 is not impressive at all. So.
Yeah, I mean, we have a card that exists in the format if you want to cheat an Ulamog into play. That's just better.
Lets you get the trigger as well.
So. Yeah, that's also true. So.
All right. Channeler Initiate.
I think it's one of the better cards in the set. There's a green and a generic for a 3/4 human druid. When it enters the battlefield, put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. Then you can tap it, remove a -1/-1 counter from Channeler Initiate to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And so on turn 2, you can play this, put it on the Initiate, it becomes a 0/1, and then it becomes a mana dork for a few turns. And then when you don't really need the mana dork anymore in a few turns, you have a 3/4.
Yeah.
It's just a respectable creature.
Yeah, like this is. I like the design on this. Like, if you're gonna have a 2 mana, mana dork, this seems like one of the better ones. This might enable, like I said before, maybe there's a Jund mid-range or a Naya mid-range deck, and this seems like a card like this would be the crux of a deck like that. So,
and it also has like interesting interactions with other multiple copies of this, because you can draw one after you've already kind of had a 3/4 for a while, and then you can potentially put the 1/1 counters on that one, use it for mana, and then still have a 3/4. So it's just
Right.
like it has some, or your all the other caveats with the other neg1 counters on creature you control, ways out of it still exists as well. Sack a creature in response, just have like a throwaway creature or something like that. So this card definitely has some interesting things that can happen to it, and it gets away from the horrible top decks that mana creatures tend to be later on in the game, if you can find ways to prevent them from
also works
being
really well
bad.
with Nest of Scarabs if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, if you want, if that's something you want to do, man, just do you.
Yeah, I mean, pretty clearly they're not going to be printing the 1 mana dorks anymore.
No, just stop.
So
it's not going to happen.
I think this is a creative way to get a good 2 mana mana creature into the set. It's pretty unique, and I think it can be used in a lot of different ways. So
it is weird that the two sort of upper echelon versions of like mana creatures that create any color of mana definitely have limited use. So you have the Servant of the Conduit in this guy now, or this gal now. So it is interesting that they aren't all available to do. So just give me 1 second here, guys. Oh, sorry about that. We're back. We might have had some weird audio things happen. So if we did, sorry about that. But to sum up, Channeler Initiate, it's good.
yeah, sweet design.
It's better than bad. It's good.
Next up, we have, I assume, Dissenter's Deliverance, because I'm not looking at the
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
It is Dissenter's Deliverance.
Dissenter's Deliverance, secretly, maybe one of the better cards in the set. So Dissenter's Deliverance is it's 1 and a green instant, destroy target artifact, with cycling of a single green. So, I feel like this is a card that we really could have used in the Kaladesh block as a way to play main deck artifact hate that doesn't feel bad when you're not going up against an artifact deck.
Yeah, I'm glad we have it now. Like,
Yeah.
it is like I've seen this card, everywhere across a bunch of different articles that have talked about like decks to play and stuff like that. Like, it's been main deck, it's been sideboard. Like this card is good. It has plenty of targets to hit within the format, and it's just an important card to have. Like, if you're playing green, you're going to sideboard this card. Like, period.
Main deck it.
A main deck it even.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to make.
This seems like the one you would main deck, and then if you need, to supplement that, you can play some, There's another card in the set that's pretty good against artifacts as well, in green. We'll get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, this card is super awesome. I mean, not being able to hit enchantments may come up, like you're not going to be able to hit a cast out that's been on the field, but, I mean, there are so many artifacts now that you'd want to hit with this, so, Heart of Kiran's, Dynavolt Towers.
I mean,
Aetherworks
even
Marvel.
Yeah, Aetherworks Marvel.
Aethersphere Harvester to a lesser extent.
Aethersphere Harvester.
It could, people could play it.
Clues.
Clues.
Who
Hey.
knows? If bans happen, maybe there's some other artifact decks that come up that you
That
want
creep
this
up?
against. Yeah.
And I think even having a card like this in your deck, like when your opponent has like many like spontaneous combustion or not unstable, right? Unstable combustion. I don't remember what it is.
You can never remember that card.
I don't know why
Yeah.
I can't.
Unlicensed disintegration.
Why do I call it spontaneous
You always call it
combustion
combustion.
every time? Anyways, though, like having a card like this where you can like in response, like, oh, I'll hit your Heart of Kiran and maybe they won't have an artifact. Like, it's kind of sweet. So yeah, this is a very good card.
Yeah. Again, it doesn't like look like it on the surface, but I think it's gonna be super important for standard.
Yeah, it's if you're underrating it, it's more impactful than you think.
Yeah.
All right. Exemplar Strength is the next card.
Yeah, this is a green and colorless for a 4/4 human warrior. That's right.
Oh, man,
a
that's
2-mana
crazy.
4/4.
That's crazy.
Okay, well, there's some things. When it enters the battlefield, put 3/1/1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever Exemplar Strength attacks, remove a -1/1 counter from it. If you do, gain 1 life. So this is a weird card to evaluate. 2-mana 4/4s are exciting. This is not a 2-mana 4/4 unless you have something before it, which is hard to do. But the fact that it also manages to remove its own, -1/1 counters is interesting. It has the right creature type because Green-White Humans was a deck before. And again, if we're talking about this green-black, maybe Nest of Scarabs deck, then you have this and you have Channeler Initiate as 2 things that add 3 -1/1 counters, i.e., 3 Scarabs. So this is a card that could just see 0 play and be ignored, or could actively be kind of scary because you have a deck that you can just draw 4/4s off the top really quickly, consistently. So,
I like the art.
oh, you mean Lando?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He just has
Billy D?
arrows. He just has arrows sticking out of him. It's like, whenever he attacks, he's like, just pulls one out.
Yeah, he's Boromir.
Yeah.
This is
and,
Boromir.
and he gains life from it, which
Yeah.
Oh, that's not what happened.
Don't
to
know how
Boromir.
that
He died.
works.
did not
He died.
did not what happened to Boromir.
Sorry,
Spoiler
Sorry,
alert.
Sean Bean. Spoiler alert for what?
Yeah,
I know.
The Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, exactly.
The book that's decades old, or the film that's a decade old.
I know it was a joke.
It was a bad one.
Also, I mean, it
Yeah,
has
one
Sean
good one,
Bean
one
in it.
bad.
Like, come on, is it really like that shocking?
Yeah,
when
was it
he
really that
dies?
surprising that Sean Bean died? I don't know.
Yeah, like let's be real here.
Spoiler alert, every other Sean Bean movie.
Yeah, literally every like just stop, just give up any hope.
Did he die in National Treasure?
No, I guess not.
Okay,
but
there we go,
probably.
we found it. We
Like
found the
eventually from like old age or something.
Of course.
All right.
right now.
Dave just turned his hat backwards and then started coughing, and I swear to God, he just looked like the Steve Buscemi meme. Like, hello, fellow kids.
Hello, fellow students. Next up, we have Gift of Paradise.
I put this one only here for you, Morgan, because you were actively playing this card. I think
Ugh.
you were trying it out.
I did try it out. So it's a enchant land for green and 2 generic, and it says when this enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life, and then enchanted land has tap add 2 mana of any color, any one color to your mana pool. And then I thought this card might lend itself to some sort of ramp deck, but I don't know if I'm the person to really actually build it. I'm
So
not.
what was the card like? This was a Verdant Haven. Is that what I'm thinking of?
Sure, something like that. But I'm not really the deck builder of the group, as it were. So it is a card that intrigued me.
Verdant Haven. That's the one from Gate Crash, from Gate Crash. You gain 2 life.
Oh, it's just strictly better.
Man, they just gotta they push the envelope in this one.
Yeah,
add
clearly.
extra life.
Well, that card saw play though in Standard. Now, granted, I think it was obviously a little bit different in Standard, but we don't have a lot of good examples of ramp in the format, so this is why I included this. Like, this is ramp that like you're taking a turn off to cast it, but at the same time, like, you get to gain 3 life, which is nice. And if you cast on like turn 4, you may still be able to like cast a 2-drop too, depending on how you chain this together. So
Or cycle something.
that would very true, actively very true. So again, a card that could see no play, but like again, our ramp options are fairly limited.
Yeah, they just aren't as good as they used to be.
So.
And like to further like emphasize, like, hey, maybe ramp could be something. We do have Haze of Pollen, which is a fog. It's a 1 in a generic fog, but it does have cycling, which typically for these ramp decks, you do want something that is to prevent combat damage. You need to stay alive to get to your payoff cards.
Is that Archfiend of Ifnir again?
Correct. That is. He is like he is hanging out.
He looks sad in that
Yeah,
one.
he looks really sad.
He's like, yo,
Okay,
curious.
it's official. He is actually a cat because
Yeah.
he's like intrigued, but now he's like sad.
Yeah, he's like, yo, that stank. Yo, I don't like that pollen. I got seasonal allergies.
Thank you, Eddie Murphy. Like I feel like Donkey just said that line.
Yeah,
I
a
see
little bit.
you now.
It's a little donkey-ish. But you see these cards kind of like coming in and potentially like laying themselves to that sort of deck. But again, I'm not the person to build it. But I wouldn't be surprised if someone figured it out. You have lots of payoff cards. But then again, you also have this, Aetherworks Marvel, which could just be like, oh, maybe that's just the ramp deck you're actually building. So I don't know.
Sure.
They're trying to throw us a bone.
Yeah. So, next card we have Honored Hydra, which I'm looking at this card now and I'm kind of confused. So, all right, it's a 5 and a green, 6/6 trample, a Snake Hydra, which seems redundant to me. Like they should have just made it like a Snake Hydra, Eel, Naga, like just every kind of snake you could possibly have.
Eels are not snakes. Stop being offensive to eels.
It's the snake of the sea. Come on.
Eel.